Last night, we brought you part one of my interview with former Trump White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci about his take on the 2024 election. Tonight, we're digging into running mates. Do they matter? He has some thoughts on J.D. Vance and whether or not Tim Walz has the economic knowledge that the Democrats are looking for in a year where it may very well be all about the economy. Take a look. You had said on the podcast that when he used that term disunifying, he missed an opportunity by not calling in Nikki Haley to join him on the ticket. Instead, he went with J.D. Vance, who you've said it was a terrible choice.
Yeah, well, he had three big opportunities. Opportunity number one, God forbid, thank goodness he was safe after the failed assassination attempt. But opportunity number one would have been to get to the podium and say, listen, for whatever's happened in our country, and maybe I have done some of it myself, we got to tone down the rhetoric. It's America. We can have differences of opinion that shouldn't cross into violence. I think if he did that, that would have been very healing and very unifying. Number two, he should have went with Nikki Haley because he would have brought a woman onto the ticket. He does well with women. That's the weird thing. What I mean by that, Kellyanne Conway and Susie Wiles, he did well with those people. And Nikki Haley would have taken a back seat to him, and that coalition would have been a stronger coalition than him and J.D. Vance. But he didn't want to do that because she railed on him during the campaign. He didn't like that. And he didn't want her getting much credit because he's a total narcissist. He needs to get full credit. So Vance looked like the right choice because Vance could sit in the back of the bus. He could drive the bus, take all the credit for the campaign and for the election. He didn't anticipate that Vance was going to have this high of a negative approval rating in terms of his net negatives. And Vance has actually hurt him on the margin. He's upset about that. And he's thinking about how to get rid of Vance. But it's hard because he's got the sediment is already in on the ballots. I mean, he could change the rules and get rid of Vance. But Vance is stabilizing now. He's starting to figure out that he needs to praise Trump on the stump more and talk about himself less. But he hasn't been a help to Donald Trump. No question about that.
When you look at running mates here, Tim Walz seems to have been a good choice for the Harris campaign in terms of favorabilities. His are higher than Vance's, but there's been a lot of talk about his military record. And I want to get your perspective as somebody who works in finance, made his name in finance, because here's Tim Walz, a guy who apparently doesn't own any stocks or bonds. And in an election where the economy is going to be top of mind for people, is that a negative for the Democratic ticket?
I don't think so. He's a teacher. They got a ton of money from teachers when he was named. And, I don't know if you know a lot of teachers. I have some of my family. They've got a budget. They get the money. They've got a pension from the public school district that they taught in. There's not a lot of room for stocks and bonds a lot of the times for these people. And so I have a lot of empathy for that. And I don't think it really hurts him that. I think the misstatements that he said about his military service, where he was at certain times, I think it hurts him on the margin, but I don't really think that matters. I think he was a great pick for her because he's willing to take a back seat to her. He's a good cheerleader. He has a Midwestern value set, which I think will play well in those Rust Belt states. And she had the risk of being big-footed by Josh Shapiro, who I see as a politician that's more ambitious than Governor Walz, or now vice presidential nominee Walz. So we'll have to see. But listen, this is Donald Trump. Are we going back to 1947, or Kamala Harris? Are we in 2024 advancing the nation? That's the choice, and we'll have to see what happens. But Trump, man, he's an open can of spam. He wants to bring us back to 1947, before Jackie Robinson got on the baseball diamond. He talks like that. He acts like that. And if the American people want that, they'll get that. And of course, if they don't want that, Trump will say that the election was rigged. And that'll be another sad day for America because, people believe this guy, and he takes them over the waterfall with him. Yeah. And it's not good. Look at what happened on that insurrection day. Very bad stuff.
The podcast is called The Rest is Politics U.S. with Caddy K. Anthony Scaramucci, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for good luck. Thanks to Anthony Scaramucci for joining us here. And hey, I know a lot of people find him a polarizing figure. I thought it was a fascinating discussion. We're back after this on your Final Five.